Yesterday I forgot to put my fiction cap on, uh, and so I'm not going to redo it. But don't believe a word I said, since I did, even though I didn't have my cap on. But now I'm spinning my tale once again. When the three buggies, with their drivers and their horses and their passengers, got to the back of the Lucerne Hotel, that was the 4-star, the really big one. They couldn't go to the front of it because the front of it was right over that limestone quarry, that cliff like with the waterfalls and all that. So, the back was what they used. I'll tell you about what it was like inside later. But for now, they, they, the parents, the two couples, they got out, and the drivers, Ivan and Irvin, these are Mervin's cousins, they helped them get their luggage out. And of course there were porters there, a 4-star hotel, there were porters there that took their luggage up to their rooms. And it was now just time to say goodbye to their children. But before they did that, Janny, now he's the father, Peter's father, he said to Mervin, he said, I want to pay for this trip we just had. Let me pay that bill. And he said, would $500 cover it? And Mervin, he just laughed at that. He said, no, you can't cover it that way. And now it's time to know the name of the other father. This would be Heidi's father. His name, he went by Scott. His first name was George Scott a Lanter. But anyway, he went by Scott, and he kind of teased Jenny. He said, they were best friends. He said, "Are you kidding? They had 3 buggies, 3 horses, 3 drivers. They had to go to the airport to get us, bring us here, and now they got to go back. Are you kidding? Let's say $500 a piece. How about that? If each one of us puts in $500, would that pay for this trip?" And at that, Mervin, he just laughed even harder. He said, "No, you guys, you don't understand." And they were puzzled, flummoxed, you might say. And he said, "Look, Mervin didn't want them to be suffering here." Now remember, these two guys were multimillionaires. They could have said, "Hey, $5,000 for every driver." They wouldn't have blinked at that. But he said, "No, this is Sunday. We're Mennonites. We obey the Sabbath. If you were to pay us for this trip, we would have worked. And we didn't work. This was a great pleasure for us to do. And as I say, if you paid us, that would be sinful for us for what we've done. So no, you can't pay us anything. You don't have enough money between the two of you to pay us for this trip." Well, the guys, they just hardly knew what to say, and so Mervin and White came to her rescue. He said, maybe back in the day, before the Great Awakening, 5 years ago, and the Great Change, maybe you would have had to pay. I don't know. You couldn't have paid us. But just think of it as a wedding gift, okay? If that makes you feel any better, to the first married couple, to choose Earth's drink for the place of their honeymoon. And so the men, they said, "Well, okay," and then they and their wives proceeded to say goodbye and goodnight to the young couple, to their children. And the 2 other drivers, they went ahead. It was one way, so they had to go around, and they went out. And then Mervin, he came along to take them to their hotel, which was the Andermatt. That's the one, and again, the back of the hotel, because the front of it, the gable end with all the windows, that faced the mountain, Maker Mountain, the Earth's Drink part of Maker Mountain. And up there, it's getting dark now, but up there they could see the Alps. here and there was a tiny light, but anyway, it was beginning to get dark. And now the couple, the newlyweds, they had whispered to each other, not whispered, but they talked to each other a little bit on the way, and and so Peter spoke to Mervin and said, Mervin, could we just leave our luggage off here, and the porters we'll have it taken to the room, to our room. And would you do one more thing for us? Would you drive us back to that food court that you showed us before? Because I think we would like to have a bite to eat before we come back to our hotel, and see what it looks like from up there in that tower. That's what the town called it. They just called it the tower. And Mervin said, sure, no problem. And so on they went. And as they went, they passed the third hotel, which is called the Osterberg. And now that one also looked very, very pretty. And it was just as big as the Andermatt, but it looked more barn-like. And it was, you could almost think it really was a barn and not a hotel at all. This is the two-star hotel. And as they went by, there was this tremendous nickering and nickering that they could hear coming from inside the barn. And Mervin said, that's what you're hearing is Edgar and Rice. They're the stable mates of Kelly. This is where she stays at night. I have a sulky there, and I have a lighter, smaller horse, and the sulky will take me up to my home, which is on up Saddle Creek Valley. But anyway, all this nickering and nickering was going on, and when they went on by, Edgar let out a honk or a bray. You see, Edgar and Rice were burros, and they you could say, strange company, but you could say that Kelly, the horse, the Morgan, she was their best friend, and here she was coming home, but then she left again, and he said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Those burros, they belong to a woman in Earth's Drink in the borough, but it's too." It's a little tricky to try to stable a horse in the borough because the houses are so close together. So she stables them out here. But she also they're trained to pull the sulky, or a buggy rather, and sometimes you'll see her. And he said one of the funniest things to see is sometimes, just for the fun of it, we'll hitch up Kelly in the middle, and Edgar and Rice on either side of her, and the three of them go just as proud as could be, pulling something or whatever. So now you know about Edgar and Rice burros. Now that name, Peter. I don't know if Heidi knew, but Peter knew right away. He knew that there was a kind of a joke built into that name. Well, there was a sense of humor in Earth's Drink, not just the borough, but that whole area. And now and then, in some name or something, you'll see that things were done with a sense of humor. Well, anyway, to make it short, Mervin took him up to the food court, and it was still open, and left him off and say, "I wish you two the very best. Good night now." And off he went around that big one-way circle again to take care of Kelly and then head on home. And maybe I'll stop there for now. So I had my hat on. Don't believe a word I said. Bye for now.